There is some guy revving his car. I'm trying to record a video. Do people not know this? And I'm also getting text messages. Chill out. Who keeps texting me? What is going on, guys? Welcome to this video. My name is Cameron and this is the review for Ultimate Spider-Man issue 106. Now, of course, it's been like 2 weeks. Yeah, been a little bit busy and obviously someone texting me again. I did upload a new video to my second YouTube channel, so if you want to check that out, you can click the thing up here or the link in the description. Go check it out. It's only like a fun vlog. It's not really anything super cinematic or anything, but a lot of you guys enjoyed it, so some of you guys might do as well. But anyway, yeah, something that was really confusing about this was the fact that obviously we just finished the Clone Saga, and apparently, according to Google, the next issue is supposed to be Ultimate Spider-Man Annual Issue 2. When you have all the Ultimate Spider-Man comics, Marvel automatically puts them in order of whenever they released or like whenever you're supposed to read them. And Annual Issue 2 is said to be read after issue 95 on the Marvel website. So that's what I did. I reviewed it after issue 95. But if you search Google, it tells you that Annual Issue 2 is supposed to be read after 105. So it's a bit confusing, but anyway, ignoring that, Ultimate Spider-Man issue 105, what happened in that previous issue? Well, thank the Lord, we saw Peter and Mary Jane get back together finally. It was such an awesome return to their relationship. I mean, they confessed their love for each other. Peter Parker realized that Mary Jane is just going to get put in danger no matter what, so he might as well just be with her anyway. But one of the downsides to that was Kitty Pryde actually saw those guys kissing each other right outside Peter Parker's house in the street, and oh god, the look of like emotion on Kitty Pryde's face was absolutely devastating. I feel so bad for her. We also saw Nick Fury and Peter Parker make amends. Like, Nick Fury thought that Peter was going to become the next big supervillain, when in reality Peter is actually going to become the greatest hero of all time. But I believe just before or just after that, we actually had Kitty Pryde stood outside the curtain of where Aunt May was laying in the hospital, telling Professor X to wipe the memory from Aunt May that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, and he flat out refused. And this damaged the relationship between Kitty Pryde and Professor X drastically. She even said that she hated him. Like, that's bad. So of course we're going to see the effects of that at the end of this Ultimate Spider-Man issue 106 review, but you'll have to wait until we get there. Now, in the previous issue, we also said goodbye to Jessica Drew. It was actually really emotional. Peter was technically hugging his clone sister, like, girl version of himself. It was really weird, but it was awesome, and as you can see, Jessica Drew is actually involved enough in the Clone Saga in general and just in the Ultimate Spider-Man comics to know that she's going to become her own character, which of course we know that she's her own character now. Like, this is just sort of like where she originated from. So that's really cool. And then just before we closed off the comic as well, we saw Nick Fury with the clone of Gwen Stacy and the Scorpion Peter Parker clone. Now obviously that's going to come up again sometime soon in the future. I'm not going to say when. Okay, I'll say when. It's like around issue 128-ish. Yeah, like that is what happened in the previous issue. So guys, I think it's time we get into this issue with Ultimate Spider-Man issue 106. But stick around because I'm going to be announcing the giveaway winner that I had in the review for the previous issue, because I was actually holding a giveaway in the review for the previous issue, and I'm going to announce that winner at the end of this video, so keep an eye out. Let's review. So as we're getting into the issue, you can see that we are opening up the first page of the comic with Damage Control cleaning up the mess that was done to Peter Parker's house by Nick Fury and Carnage and all that craziness. Now, for any of you guys that don't remember who Damage Control are, if you've seen the Spider-Man Homecoming movie, Damage Control are the company that clean up the mess that the superheroes cause. In this case, in the Spider-Man Homecoming movie, it's the company that Vulture owns at the very beginning of the movie. But anyway, moving on. So one of my favorite things about like the overall feel of this comic is the fact that for the last like 6 or 8 issues, we've had like this craziness going on with the Clone Saga. We've not really had a break or anything to sort of like calm us down. But then when we get into this issue, it's like this is the other side of the storm. It's like we've gone through a storm and we've come out of it perfectly fine, and now all of the characters are like just really relaxed. Like, Peter and Mary Jane are back together, Aunt May's recovering, Peter's house is being fixed and like refurbished and everything, and the overall issue is just really calm and relaxing to read, and I love that. Now, as you can see on screen, we've got Aunt May actually questioning Peter Parker and Mary Jane about the whole secret identity with Spider-Man, and obviously that's going to come up again in the next few issues. Peter and Aunt May are going to have that talk, that discussion, going through all of the craziness that Peter has endured whilst being Spider-Man and how he's bounced those secrets around Aunt May. And it's actually really interesting, so I think you guys should look forward to that. I'm not going to tell you what issue it's in, but it is really soon. But as for what we're seeing on screen with Kingpin, basically, if you guys aren't understanding what's happening, pretty much all of the clothing merchandise, so say like a Spider-Man video game or a Spider-Man t-shirt or a Spider-Man statue, Kingpin owns the rights to all of that. So for every single Spider-Man statue or Spider-Man video game or something like that is sold, Kingpin gets the money for it. And if you still don't understand what I mean, basically, Kingpin is making money off Spider-Man by Peter Parker just being Spider-Man. Imagine how annoying that would be from Peter Parker's perspective. Something else that I've noticed as well, which is really nice about the comic, is that throughout the Clone Saga, it felt like a bunch of other characters got put on hold. Like, for example, we didn't see J. Jonah Jameson for quite a while. We barely saw Peter Parker at high school, especially with like Flash Thompson and Kong and all those guys that are at his school. And as I was saying earlier, it's pretty much like Peter Parker can continue his life once again. And so it's really awesome when we go into the Daily Bugle and see J. Jonah Jameson there for the first time in what feels like forever, and his first impression back to us as the reader is the classic J. Jonah Jameson firing Peter Parker right off the bat. And I think that's so funny, I think that's so hilarious that J. Jonah Jameson is still the same person that he was. But of course, he takes his firing back of Peter Parker when he finds out that obviously Peter Parker was actually at the center of this whole thing going on with Nick Fury and the Spider-Man shootout and everything like that. So everything is forgiven. But I just love it how Peter has the balls to ask for a raise right after being rehired and fired and all that crazy stuff. And J. Jonah Jameson's reaction to that is also amazing. So I think it's really cool how we're getting back into that Peter and J. Jonah Jameson interaction between the two characters. Like, we love it, and it's really refreshing to finally get back to that now that we've come out of the Clone Saga, because obviously, as I've just said as well, it feels like it's been forever since we've seen some of these characters, and so it's nice to see Peter Parker's life continuing back to how it usually was. But moving on, as you can already see on screen, we've got Daredevil making an appearance in this comic. And someone else we've got is Shang-Chi, who I believe is the friend of Iron Fist, who we've been seeing about 20 issues ago in this Ultimate Spider-Man series. It's awesome. And we actually learn that Daredevil is obviously planning to take down the Kingpin, because obviously the arch nemesis to Daredevil is the Kingpin, and it sounds like he's putting together a team. And this is one of my favorite moments in this entire issue, because this is the moment where Daredevil, aka Matt Murdock, goes to Peter Parker's high school in person. And what I like about this is the fact that it actually makes Daredevil more of a serious character, like he's more of a main character in this saga. And I just love it how he revealed his identity to Peter Parker, sort of just turning up in normal clothes. Like, Peter Parker didn't know that Matt Murdock was Daredevil at first, because Daredevil has never mentioned it, and I just thought it was great. But one thing that we cannot forget about when reading this issue, and obviously thinking about what's happened in the Clone Saga previously, is that Peter Parker and Mary Jane are now back together, but Peter never actually broke up with Kitty Pryde. Now obviously at the very beginning of the issue, when Peter Parker was going in his house, when Damage Control was there and everything, he did acknowledge that he's a two-timing like sort of person, and he doesn't feel very happy about it, and it feels really bad. And throughout the entire issue, he's had that on his mind about having to tell Kitty Pryde, but he never actually got a chance to. And that's where the end of the issue actually gets a little bit crazy, when Kitty Pryde actually ends up attending and moving to Peter Parker's high school as a student. So not only has all this gone on with Peter Parker and Mary Jane, but now Kitty Pryde actually goes to the same high school as Peter Parker and Mary Jane. I cannot think of a worse situation. But the best thing about it is that you do genuinely feel so bad for Kitty Pryde. You can tell by the look on her face that she's so hurt by what Peter Parker did to her. And obviously it wasn't on purpose, but man, you feel so bad for Kitty Pryde. And obviously her going to the school is just going to cause a lot of complications that will have to be addressed in the next issue. So guys, that is it for this issue. Thank you so much for watching, but let's talk about some of the highlights back on camera, and let's talk about this whole Kitty Pryde and Daredevil situation. Let's go. Man, can we just talk about the ending to that comic? I mean, Kitty Pryde was never told that Peter Parker was like dating Mary Jane now and everything, and what, you could not think of a worse situation. But the most devastating moment is when Kitty Pryde genuinely looks like she's really upset with Peter Parker. He's definitely hurt her, and I feel so bad for her. Like, oh my god. That's obviously going to cause complications, because now Kitty Pryde goes to the same school as Peter and Mary Jane. Like, that could not be worse. But for Kitty Pryde to actually walk around and see Peter and Mary Jane sort of like dating each other and everything, and what? Like, what? But I think it's really important to point out that the reason that Kitty Pryde is now a student at Peter Parker's high school is because obviously in the previous issue, she damaged the relationship between her and Professor X. So most likely she's left the X-Men and decided to just go to a regular school because obviously Professor X's school is like a school for mutants, but Kitty Pryde doesn't like Professor X anymore. So if I remember correctly, I believe she's voluntarily left Professor X's school, and that's so sad. Now luckily, one thing about this situation that I did like was the fact that Peter actually addressed at the beginning of the issue that he knows that he's like doing a really bad thing, like he doesn't mean to do it, it's like the situation that's happened. I would have been quite annoyed if Brian Michael Bendis didn't actually acknowledge that in the comic, like as if Peter and Mary Jane just carried on as if they forgot about Kitty Pryde. But luckily, Peter had it on his mind for the entire issue, and so I'm okay with that. Moving on, we also had Peter and Aunt May actually discussing the secret behind him being Spider-Man, and I like how Aunt May actually had questions for Mary Jane, asking if she knew, and like, I just love how she's very curious about Peter Parker being Spider-Man, because anybody would be exploding with questions at that reveal of an identity. So obviously that's going to come back around in a few issues. I'm not going to say when, just because I don't want you guys sort of like looking forward to it, but it is very, very soon, so just keep an eye out. I think one of the more humorous sides of the comic as well was Kingpin actually owning the rights to Spider-Man, meaning literally all the merchandise rights or like video game rights or anything along those lines, like clothing. Kingpin owns it, so if it sells, Kingpin gets money. And it's really funny because Kingpin actually brings this up with Spider-Man in like a future issue, like maybe in the next issue or something like that. Imagine from Spider-Man's perspective having a villain such as the Kingpin, but you are literally making the villain money just by being a superhero. So I like the spin that Brian Michael Bendis put on that. So instead of having Spider-Man and Kingpin have sort of like a physical competition, like that's awesome. And of course we'll see some of that come out again in the next issue and the next issue after that, etc, etc. Before we move on though, I do want to talk about Peter and Mary Jane's relationship. I mean, look how cute they are. It's like they've just started dating again. They're so cute, like Mary Jane badgering Peter to put on his costume so that he don't have to get the bus. I mean, as a massive Ultimate Spider-Man Peter and Mary Jane fan, like, they just look so good. Now, in terms of returning characters, J. Jonah Jameson reappears in the Ultimate Spider-Man comics. It's great to see him. He is his obnoxious self, just like usual, firing Peter Parker the moment he walks through the door, not realizing that Peter has been through probably one of the most stressful weeks of his entire life. I really like how J. Jonah Jameson sort of bites his tongue and like swallows his pride and lets Peter back on the job. But then Peter has the nerve to ask for a raise as well. Like, that really hit J. Jonah Jameson in the gut, and I really like that. The interactions between Peter and J. Jonah Jameson are like just getting better and better, because even though it's like a love-hate relationship, you can tell that they actually do care about each other quite a bit. Anyway, yes, getting throughout the issue, we also had Daredevil building a team to kill the Kingpin. I really liked how Matt Murdock turned up at Peter Parker's school, because Matt Murdock is obviously quite like, he doesn't really talk to too many people, he keeps his identity to himself, etc. So the fact that he just straight up walks up to Peter Parker and made it clear that he was Daredevil to him, I thought that was so awesome, especially because he towers over Peter Parker. Someone is revving the car again. And obviously, to finish this review off, guys, the entire comic is just super relaxing. Like, we've been through that Clone Saga, we've had a lot of like messing about, we've not really had a break. Like, for the last like 5 or 6 issues, or however many issues the Clone Saga was, it was just full on like issue after issue after issue with like clones and Jessica Drew, Gwen Stacy coming back, Aunt May having a heart attack, Nick Fury, Carnage. It was just non-stop, and now we've got to like this stage where we've come out of the other side. Everything's just sort of rebuilding itself. Peter and Mary Jane are back together, Aunt May's getting better. You know what I mean? It feels like Peter is sort of building his life back together. So now it's time to rate the issue. So guys, obviously, not too much really happened in this issue. We didn't see too much Spider-Man. As I've already mentioned, the returning characters, Peter and Mary Jane getting back together, that whole thing with the twist with Kitty Pryde at the end. I'm going to give this issue an 8 out of 10. It didn't get too crazy, and we did have a slight bit of action with Kingpin, Daredevil, and of course Iron Fist's friend and everything like that. So it was pretty cool, but yeah, 8 out of 10. But now it's time to announce the winner of the giveaway that I announced in the previous video. So if you guys don't know, I actually did a giveaway in the previous issue review for this Spider-Man pop figure, and the way to enter it was, I actually have a second channel. I uploaded a Cinematic Manchester video where I live to that channel, and to enter, you just had to comment on that video and leave a like on it, or like whatever it was, I can't exactly remember. The winner of this pop figure is the Marvelous Spider, All you did was comment hello, which is perfectly fine. I mean, that is how you enter. And just so you guys know, that's the sort of comments you have to leave on my video. You just have to say hello or like whatever you liked about the video, anything, and you can win. So congratulations to you, the Marvelous Spider. I'll get in contact with you, or you can get in contact with me and we'll sort out where to send this. So yeah, congratulations. Now, of course, there'll be more giveaways in the future, but guys, that is the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you loved this issue. We're getting into a new saga. Daredevil's in it, Kingpin's in it. It's going to get a hell of a lot more crazy, especially now that Kitty Pryde is at the same school as Peter Parker and Mary Jane. Like, damn. And one thing to remember as well is that Kitty Pryde is a famous mutant from the X-Men, so she's not exactly going to blend in high school, is she? So you got that to look forward to. Guys, let me know what you thought in the comment section below. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button for more. Follow me on Instagram. You can see all of like me making my videos. Like I always put it on my Instagram story, like the editing process and everything. So yeah, follow me on there and I will see you all in my next video. Goodbye.